boom, 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 chicka 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 boom, 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 chicka 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 boom, 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 chicka 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 boom, 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 wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 chicka 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 wow, chicka wow, 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 wow. Wow, chicka wow, bow, bow. Wow, chicka down, down. Oh, Taped Aquatics, #1 to the live chat. Jennifer J. Saraceno, #2. Boom, 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 boom. Internet. Boom, 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 boom. Internet. Boom, 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 boom. Internet. Boom, 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 boom. How long do we leave the thing loading? We leave it on about that long. What's up, Internet? Cichlid is here, too. Welcome to another whatchamacallit with the Whoosy What's It and the Who How, whatever you want to call this. Jennifer's asking if I stayed cool today. It got hot. It snuck up on us. We had that nice marine layer, but it snuck up on us. So I'm trying to rehydrate. Plus, those of you that follow on the old face page know that I had that diabolical McDonald's headache this morning. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm not sure why. I didn't sleep well at all. And woke up with a big headache. And as a kind of a joke, Vicky and I were going back and forth blaming it on McDonald's, which it was pretty funny. Pretty funny stuff. Cichlid Nez coming out of New Mexico says I need a haircut. You're right. It's about time. I'm gonna be getting. I'll probably go maybe this Friday. Me and Vicky will go get haircuts. Maybe we'll go to our local haircuttery and get haircuts. And I'm over here fiddling around. Eddie West, what up, Internet? What's going on? It is Monday. Monday. Hopefully everybody's Monday went off without too much of a hitch. Nothing too crazy. From the title here. Let's see. Let's talk about Taiwan shrimp, crystal shrimp, and how I'm going to filter my water. We don't have a video segment tonight, guys. Sorry about that. The video segment will be on this thing. Because basically I got home a little bit late and had to make dinner. So I made pork fried rice tonight with lots of vegetables. Out of some pork ribs that I cooked up on Saturday night. I used the leftover from the pork ribs. Punky Pam is here. What is going on, Punky? Pamelina. Used the leftover pork ribs and made some pork fried rice from a lady with the egg on top, with a fried egg from our chickens on top. It was pretty good. My lady's out there working in the yard, moving around some blueberry bushes. We have some mysterious hops from the previous owner grow up on this fenced area, and anybody knows much about growing hops, they pretty much attract every pest bug in the world, along with some good bugs, like the bad bugs would be aphids, and then these weird little prickly orange and black spiky things. I'm not really sure what they are. I know I've seen them before, so they're not some kind of mysterious space bug, although they do look like they're from space. I don't know what they are, but I know that they're bad. I can't think of what they're called. And then we got aphids. But on the upside, we got a ton of ladybugs out there chowing to town on those aphids. And then I'll probably end up giving the hops once they do whatever that little blossom bloom thing is, the buds. I'll end up passing those on to a buddy of mine who makes beer. You guys know I'm sober. I don't make beer. Don't really have a big use for hops, but the chickens like eating all the trims. Apparently the hop trims are really good for the chickens' digestive whatever, who's what's it that's inside of them. Apparently, it's really good for them to feed them the trimmings of the hops. So I feel it's good to pass those on when we trim them. Joel Gillett's here, coming all the way from New Zealand. What is up, my man? How you doing? Good to see you on a Monday. Good to see you out here feeling fresh on a Monday. I was just mentioning that we're going to talk about shrimps tonight. I think I've solidified my plan, shrimp-wise. I think I'm gonna dial it down. I'm gonna dial it down a little bit, so I'm gonna let you guys know about that. And also, water filtering here. We're gonna talk about that, what parts you need, and all that kind of stuff. In order to set up your water filtration. Now, obviously, I want to throw a little bit of a warning here at the beginning. Some of the water filtration I do will not apply to some people out there. Some people out there will need a more extensive system than what I need here, and we'll probably have to modify. But that's why we'll be building the system the way that I'll be showing you how to do it henceforth tonight. So pay attention as we move along. And, of course, this will always upload later as a video, so in case you got to go back over some stuff you may have missed or whatever, you'll be able to do that. But, yeah, like I said, hopefully everybody had a nice Monday out there down here in Tacoma. We had that marine layer in the morning, so it was kind of cool, but then it just heated up and snuck up on you. You know what I mean? You're just like, hey, I'm relaxing, I'm chilling, I'm just working out here, everything's cool, and all of a sudden, sunbeams and hot in your eye. So it wasn't all terrible. But like I said, I just had this raging headache all day today, so that was super fun. But I feel better now, and got myself some of this extra delicious Fiji water. Not a sponsor. I just like this water. That's the good one. That's the one I like from the store. If I have to get anything from the store, that's the one I get. Carson's here. Cichlid Bro is here. What is going on? And Sergeant Tank is here on a Monday. What is going on? What is going on a Monday, everybody? All right. So, yeah, so that was going on. I also was, I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys, but have you ever been, like, wildly inconvenienced by well-meaning people? That happened to me a bunch today. Like when I was at the hardware store. You know, it's like the retired guy in the Hawaiian shirt is the dude at the hardware store that's going to get in your way first when you're trying to get something off a shelf for some reason, and then he's got like 3 workers' attention there when you're going like, dude, I need a part. Where do you keep it here? This isn't my store. I don't normally come here. He's got all 3 of their attention, and then I finally get the parts I need, and then he's the dude that's got 5 receipts up at the cash register, and, you know, the guy that works there is trying to help the dude out, like return a bunch of brass parts that the guy had bought and get it exchanged. He's like, he's got to get these exchanged. And, you know, I caught in passing that the guy's been building this thing for 3 weeks, whatever he was building it out of these brass parts. He clearly had all the wrong ones. He's been working on it, as he said, for weeks. And it's like, I think this is one of those guys that's like, he's not only in my way, I think he's in his own way, you know? I think on a regular basis, this guy has got to be like in his own way. If that makes any lick of sense to you at all, but it just seems like this guy. And then I was at McClendon's, which is not where I normally go. McClendon's doesn't have a self-check, so if there's an issue, you can't like just go check yourself out. And they only had one cashier on a Monday. And the one guy is trying to deal with this crazy Hawaiian shirt dude who's just in the way. He's just in my way. And there's like 8 workers circling around, but none of them are qualified to use the cash register. I don't know. I kept my cool, but it's just kind of been bugging me. And it bugged me at the time. And then I just got, trying to drive home, I got cut off by like 6 different people, which is also a nightmare. Not to be here to bitch about traffic and weird people. This would be a moment when you want to explain the KISS method. What is the KISS method? I'd like to know that. Punky Pam's your sister is a magnet for those people. Oh, KZ Ellis is here. How you doing? I wonder if there's anybody I forgot to say hello to. I'm going to look through here. I think I said hello to everybody. Oh, but Eve is here also. Eve Deigel, your mother-in-law's like that. Your mother-in-law's one of those people that's just all up in the way for people. I get that. Oh, you was the guy. Oh, Cichlid Nez was the guy in the white shirt. I don't think you're as old as this guy was. He was clearly on retired time, which is fine. I like I said, I didn't like chew anybody out or get all pissed off or, start a battle with anybody. I just kind of stood there. But realistically, I felt bad for the cashier guy because the cashier guy has got like 5 receipts and he's like ringing them in and he's trying to figure out because the guy has apparently got like 7 different parts from 5 different receipts, and clearly the McClendon return policy is not the same as Home Depot's. Home Depot's, they just scan everything in, and they're like, do you have a card for it? And it just picks up your credit card, and then you're done. And you go about your merry way and go back and buy other brass stuff. But apparently the return guy was the same as the register guy, which seems odd to me that the dude wasn't at, like, customer service taking that stuff back, but... I survived. That is the that's the upside. The big time upside is I did survive. Okay, Eve, that is funny. I gotta remember that one. That for sure is a good one. Okay, well, sorry about personal rant with just a dumb guy at the store or whatever. It was just, it just bugged me. It just bugs me when that kind of crap happens, whatever. I'm sure it bugs everybody. Just get it off my chest, I guess. Why not? It's Monday. We'll do a little bitching on Monday. Why not? But we are at the 10, 12 minute mark, whatever you want to call it, because it's actually 12 minutes and not 10. So I wanted to take, first and foremost, a second out of this, and I thought I had pulled this up. Did I pull this up? I thought I had pulled this up. Hold on a second here. I gotta pull it up on the other computer. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. I would like to give a shout out to our Patreon patrons. Mden Hollander, JT, Aquarium Co-op, Joel Gillett, Karen KZ Ellis, Steven Skoglund, our newest, and along with KZ Ellis, our newest of the Patreoners. Anybody's wondering where that is and what that's all about, I'll figure out how to post it here. Hold on a second. What did I do? I hit the wrong hotkey. But we do have a Patreon now with extremely lofty goals. And I hit the wrong button like a jack off. There we go. Hold on. Badoosh. Wait. Seriously? Why is this? I'm doing some dumb stuff here. What am I doing? Hitting the wrong buttons. Yeah. Alright, sorry guys. I'm over here hitting the wrong buttons like a hero. I'm going to have to do it on the other computer because my main computer is being weird right now. So bear with me for a second. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to all the new Patreons who are currently all over it, dropping that in. And I'm going to go ahead here and put it into the chat. And so you all can find it if you want. We have some extremely lofty goals with these Patreon goals on there. You'll notice that the main one is pretty low. The next level is going to be try and build a 22,000 gallon aquarium that will be mobile. Is that a lofty goal? I think that's a lofty goal. But you know, let's be lofty with our goals, right? But we do. That's what the Patreon page is for. And as Jennifer said there, like, share, subscribe, etc., blah, blah, blah. My goal is to have no advertising on any stuff ever, never have a paywall in front of anything. So all that kind of good stuff. We've talked about that over the last couple days, but those of you that have heard it before, let me just run through it here real quickly and bear with me. Like I said, the 22,000 gallon tank, they're actually making those now for swimming pools that are loaded onto semis. That is the goal of what I want to start building, to have a completely modular giant tank that we'd be able to take with us on the road and go to places. That is the big reason. And I don't know that I'm doing a great job of explaining it right now, because I really feel like I got a case of the Mondays. So that is the big lofty goal there. If anybody there is wondering why it's a $26,000 goal, I'll be chipping in $5,000 of my own to pour the pad and do a bunch of the equipment. But that's what it costs to buy one of those sealed, fully windowed side swimming pools that they make now out of old shipping containers. That's about the size of what that would be, is a shipping container. So that is the goal in progress right now. We also have a few other things going on here, including another 180-gallon tank that will be set up for shrimp. We're going to be setting up another 75-gallon in the meantime, waiting for a 120-gallon tank that will replace it. But that's part of what we were going to talk about tonight, is filtering water for the shrimp tank and filtering water for the reef. So we'll be going over that here in just a little bit. The other ways that you can easily contribute to this channel and these large, lofty goals that we have are you can super chat down below. You can you can super chat, which a lot of people like to do because it's a one-time thing. And you can also share it around, or you can go to darkstararts.com and click through the Amazon banner. So as we spoke about last night, this live stream format and all this kind of stuff is what we're working on now, and we're working on expanding this to go to larger, to go a little bit larger format with what we're doing here and working on these projects and stuff. So that is the big time plan. Aquatic Hobbyist wants to ask about what type of shrimp. Well, we're not to that point yet, so we'll get to that in a little while. In the stream description, we're talking about Taiwan shrimp, crystal shrimp, and shadow pandas, green hulks, or ruby red wine Taiwan shrimp. So that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about tonight, and we'll get to those after we talk about the water filter stuff. As you guys are talking about the expensive hobbies, that's true. Well, that's the thing. The water wouldn't be full of water. I actually would be working on a humidity system that would be just keeping the inside of the tank humid and covered while we were shipping it around. It actually comes with a big cover for shipping. Those guys that make that pool is actually designed so that you put it on your property where you live at, and you want to move somewhere else, you're able to take your pool with you instead of just stuffing it in the ground and then leaving it there and having to build a new pool wherever you go. So that's kind of the idea. Oh, South Carolina Cichlids is here too. What's up? People are chatting about sending PMs to each other. Anyhow, yeah, it wouldn't be full of water when we drove it around, but I can't remember the rating for what can be in a shipping container. I'm trying to remember that off the top of my head. I think 22. Is it 22 tons? I think so. 22 times 22, so 44,000 pounds, I believe. Oh, hold on. Somebody locked the dog in here. Oh, Brownie, you gotta get out. But that's what comes inside the that would be what was inside of the shipping container itself, so all the substrate and plants and all that stuff, and then I would just circulate a rehumidifier inside of there while we were driving it around. Basically something to spray water around, which realistically it wouldn't be that difficult because it's also a system that runs off of, it can run independently off of propane and charge batteries that way, which is really simple to incorporate into a truck to ship it around. So if that all makes sense. In regards to that system, that is the big lofty idea right now of what Wheeze is working on and what we're planning on doing. Let's see here. So I think we give the shout out to all the Patreons. I think we went through that. And then what was the other thing I wanted to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the super chatters out there, riding high on the top of the list. Where are they? KZ Ellis is one of them, off the leaderboard. Eddie Kaitia is on there. Aquarium Co-op is on there, and Neurotic and Luis Q is on there, kicking hard. At the top of the super chat contributors, so I'll give a shout out to all those guys, and that what it do. But this Monday, KZ's asking if you put a giant gourami in it, could I swim in it? It's intended to be a swimming pool, and that's how I would have to escape in it. And all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, probably could, as long as you don't pee in it. Eves is asking, have you factored in the cost of getting 22,000 gallons of water when you get to where you're going? Yes, I have. Little known fact about this guy right here. I worked at a street sweeping company on the overnights, on the graveyards for a couple of years. It was the other time I tried to not be a chef, so I worked for a long time being diesel mechanic. Well, not a long time, just a couple years, but that's long enough. Diesel mechanic and a street sweeper. And as a street sweeper, we regularly had to access and fill water trucks. The permit, on average, is about $85, and you're able to access water hydrants, which, as you guys know, have a pipe on them about yay big, and the 20,000 gallon truck that we had, 20,000 gallon water truck that we had, would fill up, and in about 20 minutes. I think it was about 20 minutes. I'm trying to think. Where's the model number for that water truck? Do. Yeah. It was like this one. I don't know if I can. I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can pass this. No, that's not the wrong one. Or that's not the right one. Yeah, it was like this. So you guys can look up a Cat 735 water truck. And that is that thing would take about 20 minutes to fill up. It's a lot of water, but it would take 20 minutes in that thing, and to get that filled up. So here's the deal with people are asking if that's clean water or not. Obviously, I'd have to figure out exactly where I was going, what kind of water I was getting, and what was going on with that. The filtration system within these pools is really modular in a much larger way than what I'm going to show you guys tonight. I'm going to actually show you guys a modular water filtering system. That system that is hooked into those is modular also, so you can actually change the types of filters that you're putting into it. So I would have to do a little bit of foresight ahead of time and make sure that I had all of the right filters with me. And when you hook up to a fire hydrant, you always flush the fire hydrant before you don't. Okay, so to explain that, you don't take the immediate water right out of the fire hydrant, which is actually the funnest part of ever filling from a fire hydrant, is you get to turn on a 4-inch hose full blast obviously you want to pay attention to what you're doing. The damn thing will lift you off the ground and throw you around. So you actually have to really pay attention because you could probably get murdered by this thing. But we actually had a bypass valve on ours so that we'd hook up the fire hydrant to it. We'll hook the pipe up to it and then turn this big bypass valve, and it would shoot out of 4 holes all crazy like this. So we'd actually make this big giant water geyser. During the summertime, it was hilarious. During the wintertime, it was probably the worst thing for sure. So that was a little bit miserable, but you always flushed out the water before you added it in, or you'd end up with like rusty water and all that kind of stuff. South Carolina Cichlids used to drive one of those 4,000-gallon water trucks. Like I said, this thing wouldn't be full. It would be empty at the time. So while we drove it around, and then we would fill it up wherever we set it up to stage it. So it would be a little bit of an issue, and obviously logistics are a bit of a thing. It would have to be paid attention to, but yeah, that will come down the pipe as they come up. You know, those problems come up, and they will be solved by as much as I can. What is going on here? Sergeant Tank, did any of your gym fish come in with internal parasites? Aquatic hobbyist, would you need a CDL? Yes, you would need a CDL to drive a semi. In any of the states in the United States and Canada, you would need a CDL. I think you would at least need your Class B with the air brake certification on there, which would not be that difficult for me to pick up. I don't currently have one, but it's not that difficult to acquire. Although, imagine if this was something I was going to do, I would actually probably just hire a guy who owns a truck and drive it down there. And I know quite a few of those guys. So it would probably be just basically a phone call and a ride along. So we'd probably just ride along. And this is something that if this was to like take off or whatever, my lovely bride, future bride, would for sure come along on these kinds of things and definitely be doing that other than what she does now. That ultimately is the long-term plan for us to be able to live together, work together, have a family together, and not be working for a crazy boobity boop, you know, whatever you want to call it. But that's the plan long-term for sure. And so it wouldn't be too far off. And Vicky's the kind of gal who would get her CDL. You know what I mean? She's gangster as all get out. I love her to death. I was going to have her come on tonight, but she's a little bit stressed out and just having a little relaxed time right now. So, but maybe tomorrow we'll get her to come on here and talk some stuff about her plans, because I want her to come let you guys know about some of her plans that she's got. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of interested in them too, because I've only been getting little tidbits myself. So I'm pretty excited to hear from her. Oh, Rurutu's been infected by mosquitoes. Oh, man. Would I need a crane to move it off the trailer? Actually, as far as I know, these can either stay on a trailer because you can jack them up and stabilize them onto a trailer platform, or you can slide them off. If you've ever seen that before, that's the best way to describe it. I can't think of the name of what it's called, but essentially it will tip off back, dunk, like that, just and drop back down. So to answer Cichlid Nez question, would I need a crane? Dwayne's fish are dying from something, and that really sucks. Did you quarantine them? That's the question I have. I don't mind you guys taking up the chat. That doesn't bother me. Rurutu definitely needs some quinine for his malaria. That is for sure. Go ahead and get your quinine for sure immediately, because malaria is one of those old nasty ones that you don't really want to mess around with, right? That is the way to go. South Carolina saying Class B. Dwayne, I'm actually concerned about what's going on with your fish. Did you order fish from somebody and add them into your tank? Any of your gym fish come in with internal parasites? Okay. I'm actually kind of concerned to what's going on with Dwayne's fish, and I hope he quarantined them. when he got them in. Was no way Joel drove 6 hours through the night, only had one tank to put 20 large rainbows. That is a drag. I would have... I'm currently using my 240 as my little quarantine in the meantime, because it's the only tank with any fish in it. If that makes sense. It's like, that's my initial setup tank, so I could have put them in quarantine, but everybody's looking pretty good. The Blairy was dead in the bag and had to plop and drop. Oh, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Hopefully everything works out with that. I would definitely think before driving somewhere, though, get your tank set up before you make a really long drive like that. Get a quarantine set up and put it aside. I mean, even if you just quarantined in a garbage can, use like one of my big gray garbage cans for a quarantine tank in the meantime, because you can really, you can just fill it up with 25, 30 gallons of water and then just have them in there. South Carolina Cichlids is asking, is Dark Star still? Dark Star Arts is still. That is still my site, which is this one. But there's no chat on there. It's not Dark Star Aquatics. Dark Star Aquatics has gone by the wayside, although Vinnie Mac does show up here to the chat. So it survives one way or another. It survives in our hearts, but Dark Star Arts is the site now, where I post most of my art and all that kind of stuff. What is this? Is that working? Oh, sorry, I had a misspelled word down there. It was driving me nuts. But it resides in our hearts, and Dark Star Arts is actually my company. I can show you something that is actually pretty fun, a little bit personal here. Not like personal, but I'll show you guys. We got two different... Okay. They're hard to get out of there. I didn't realize how hard they were to get out of there. We got two different jammies here. Hold on. These are actually business cards for my business. And I want to make sure that my phone number isn't in the shot. But that's darkstararts.com. That's for all art-related stuff. And if you want aquarium stuff and any of that kind of stuff, if you want your house fixed or any of that kind of stuff, I want to make sure that my Who's What's It isn't in here. And then this one is for my construction stuff that I do, which I did a really piss poor job of showing that off. But either way, you get the idea. We got new business cards to hand out to people, which is entirely too helpful, and definitely coming through handy. My lady ended up putting those together for us because she has a better eye for the business stuff than I do, so she's pretty good at that stuff. And Cichlid Bro's asking, am I going to do another custom painted background for a tank like you did some number of videos ago? That was quite a while ago that I did that one. I don't think I'll be painting another one like that ever again, realistically, but I'm going to be making a fiberglass hybrid type of background for the 180 because it has a blue background in it, which is going to drive me nuts. So I'm going to end up doing that one. Cichlid Nez has to go to bed. Yeah, I'll have to be going to bed here in a little while too. Have a good night. Sleep tight, brother. Sleep better than I did last night. That was, that was not good sleep last night. I stayed up. I'll just be painting probably more murals and stuff. I don't think that I'll be painting tanks anymore because it just I don't know. It just was uncomfortable and I didn't really enjoy it that much. So I am going to be getting back to some mural work here at some point in time. We'll see how that goes. Some of the big murals and all those kinds of projects are coming down the pipe, and we shall see how they go. Oh, Jason Metz fan. Oh, that's who South Carolina Cichlids is. That's Jason Metz fan, right on. Sergeant Tank wants to say I have absolutely beautiful artwork. Thank you very much. I work at it. It's a labor of love. You're going to do another custom. Have to hit bed. But I'll be doing kind of a fiberglass painted background for the 180. So like I said, it has a blue background in it, which will drive me nuts. Would drive me nuts for a reef, but it would really drive me nuts for a shrimp tank. It's going to be a freshwater shrimp tank, and that will be a little bananas. Paint a pack of red pandas in all your murals. I do add a few things to my murals that are specific to me, but it would be kind of lame if I pointed them out, right? It's hopefully that people pick them out. And Dwayne's going to Mickey D's for dinner again. Ugh. I can't live with that kind of hate in my life. That Mickey D's, man, that was brutal. I just could not do that. That was terrible. Terrible. But hey, man, we're 35 minutes in, so let's talk a little bit about the water filtration portion of the portion. I've got all these parts sitting back here, so I better talk about these. Oh, Schweppes still has quinine in their tonic water. Ah, and it's good to know. In case I get a case of the malaria coming on, I should probably get some of that Schweeppies, you know what I'm saying? Schweeppies. Oh. All right. So you guys probably remember from the other night this little Buster Brown right here, right? This little Busta. Okay. This is a water filter canister. And anybody who's intrigued, I ordered this from Pentax through Amazon.com. These are actually same-day delivery, which is kind of funny. They must be stocking them around here. Now, so this is the filter insert that goes inside there. We'll go over those in just a second. So this is a basic water filter housing, right? You can find these in houses. You can find these in RVs. You've probably seen these on RODI units. Here's the top of it. You have a 3/4 inch opening right here with the finer thread, not the coarse thread. It's the finer thread, which escapes MNPT, not FPT. It's MN, machined pipe thread, is the one that you're looking for in there. And that's the 3/4 inch variety at the top here, and it's clearly labeled out, which is probably hard to see with this camera, out and in. Well, let's see. Yeah, in is right there and out is right there. And this right here is a pressure relief valve. So when it's full of air and you're filling it up, instead of getting an airlock, you can actually poke this and let the air out. You might spill a little bit, but not a big deal. It's just got a screw in there with a spring and a gasket. This little top seat right here, this is kind of what confuses people. It's where the water goes in, gets filtered, and goes through. This jobber goes right on there. It slips right on there, and that's what holds it in place. Because the water comes in here, right? Hold on. I'm still trying to explain this on here. Comes in here, down into the chamber, through the filter, up through the hole, and out through the outlet, like this. Just by basic exchange and direction and volume, it's going to go in the correct direction. Now, this first filter that we have here, this is actually a micron filter, so this will remove sediment, floaters, like little floaties all up in your water. And these go all the way down to 1 micron. I wouldn't buy any of the bigger micron ones. 1 micron is as small as they'll go. That's the one that you want. You don't want to waste with 5 and 10 micron. They'll let stuff through that you're not interested in getting. Now, the other filters that go in here are these are the charcoal. These are the activated charcoal filters that I like to use, are these ones. GE makes these ones. And these ones are really cheap online. They're really expensive at the store. So you're going to have a little bit of foresight. This one's tested at a flow rate of so this one's supposed to last 3 months and 700 gallons of chlorine and chloramines removed. And it also accidentally does some sediment. So that will remove that. And then get those. So we got the micron filters. This gets most of the sediment out. Then we got the little bit of charcoal action. Nothing really too creepy about that. That one's pretty normal. Then the last and most important part for my water filtering here in Tacoma and Seattle Water District this is the deionizing canister. This is the most expensive part of my filtering system. And 3 of these is $40. So whatever that breaks down to, 13.66. So just under $14 a pop. Now the cool thing about these ones that I got specifically, they have a screw bottom that once this has run out, the media that is inside here has run out, I can actually unscrew the bottom, dump it out, and repack it with new. I can repack it with new material if I want. And as Aquatic Hobbyist is asking, no membrane, no RO membrane here. Now the reason for that is, and I have on good authority, finally calling all the people, double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking, after wondering what the hell was going on with my water here, wondering what was going on with the deaths that I had here. Here's the big deal. There's heavy chloramines and chlorine down here where I live. Other than that, the TDS comes out 26. Okay? Now, reverse osmosis, the membrane, is actually pushing water through a membrane, and then whatever doesn't get pushed through actually just pushes off the waistline, right? So there's actually essentially a thin membrane in there that's going to stop things from being passed through it. Now the biggest use for that is in areas that are close to a halophytic site. Is realistically the biggest issue is salinity in the water, which also involves limestones, things that are filtered through rock and whatnot, which the water here where I live is rainwater from big reservoirs up the hill. Now, I spent some time working at a reef store for a long time, and the guy that I worked for, we had a giant DI unit, which is a giant canister. Giant canister of this. It would hold 80 pounds at a time of that media right there. And I asked him that question, where's your RO membrane? I was like, where is the RO membrane? Where's it at? You got to have one. You got to have some wastewater going off. We pulled straight out of the tap, straight through the DI. No pre-filter, no charcoal, no nothing. And I really was wondering what the hell was going on. Because I was doing water changes on a 1,200-gallon frag reef that was just shallow frag tanks, which is just about as delicate as you could have a thing. And we were also doing big changes off an 800-gallon individual reef and then a 2,000-gallon system that ran around all over the place. Now, my initial impression was like, where's the RO unit? You're crazy for not using one. That's nuts. And, you know, the guy, we're talking about a dude who's owned a store for years and years and years and years and years. And he's like, man, I've been testing the water here. We don't have any of those rock solids or any of that kind of stuff that come up in our water because the way our water comes down here falls down from the sky, ends up in a reservoir, gets piped downhill. Our water all comes from downhill here. There's big, giant mountain range over that way, which all the water comes down from. So that's why I find it's really kind of a waste to use an RO unit. I can also, if I need to at some point in time, I can always add one in because I actually have one. But as we move through the parts list here, Desiree, don't feel like I'm ignoring you, but I will get back to your question at some point in time. Aquatic Hobbyist is asking no membrane, but this is why I'm explaining why there's no membrane. Yeah. Okay. The story you have is just RO. Okay. But as we were talking about earlier, one of the big reasons this is modular is because here's another one of them. And we have the plumbing pieces here because I can run these all in line. I can run these all in line and actually hook them up, because what I have right here is for the hose out of the garage, right? So I can actually add just this one in the end, and I can move the hose from, as I mount these all across the walls behind all the tanks going around the room. I'm going to mount these all in a very convenient place, and then I'll be able to run one hose whichever tank I'm going to be filling up. If I'm going to be doing a top off, or if I'm going to be mixing new reef water or any of that kind of stuff, I'm going to actually have it set up so I'm only having one hose hooked up instead of having these all pressurized all the time. Because that has almost always been the big time no-no in these systems over a long period of time, is having them under pressure. Like I said, you order these and they're like probably $14 a piece, which gives you an idea that, they spent a little bit of money to make it, but it doesn't, it doesn't really cost that much. Otherwise they'd be selling it for more, right? So that'll end up being the weak point in your water pressurized system, and blowing out a seal and coming back to a big old drip, 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 that's been doing that for 17 hours or any of that kind of stuff. That's going to be a nightmare. That is going to be an absolute nightmare of a flood, and that is exactly the last thing any of us want to deal with, especially when you're coming, you're like, oh, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to mix up some water and I'm going to get things set up for all my maintenance that I got to do today and all that kind of stuff. That is the last thing I want to do, is suddenly deal with, oh, there's a blown seal here. All right, go to the water cutoff. Now get out the shop vac, start vacuuming up water, probably do drywall, all that kind of crazy thing, all that kind of crazy nonsense. Some people ask for a simple solenoid with a flow restrictor. If you're going to get an actual flow restrictor, go to the store and buy one. Typically, they're made of brass, and they cost $60, $70, $80. Garden hose doesn't really cost anything, and I already have a ton of them. And I also want to be able to, because I plumbed 2 water sources into the shop itself, I didn't want to have a whole bunch of extra lines to worry about winterizing into a 100-year-old building. So there's one area that I have to winterize, and it's just going to be a short little 15-minute thing, if that. It's probably less than that, realistically. And the pressure regulators that you would actually need, like I said, they're pretty expensive and they wear out. They have a lot of parts on them that wear out over time. And, like I said, it's an $80 trip, $60 trip. Sometimes you can find them a little bit cheaper, but it's a trip nonetheless. It's 3 hours wasted, realistically, maybe 4 hours wasted once you have to replace it, crawl under the house or crawl under anything and put in another one. I do a lot of plumbing, and the last thing I want to do is overcomplicate a plumbing situation and end up with a bunch of extra work down the line. Like, for instance, having to plumb in another line for waste or waistlines or any of that kind of stuff. And as I said in earlier videos, when I was actually building out the fish room here, we didn't have any way to hook into the main. I mean, I could have done it. We didn't have any funding. We didn't have any money to do it, to dig all that and get it done. I could have done it, but we just didn't have the money or the timeline to do it. And I realistically was really scrambling to get everything moved here, and it moved in a quick timeline. And that didn't happen. I ended up boiling all my crystal shrimp, all my colonies in that damn bucket, and that really sucked. It was terrible. It was a huge loss. Many years of me breeding them buggers, plus all the money down the drain really sucked. But we haven't hooked into the main sewer yet. And the big reason for that is that it would end up being a big-time cost, and we'll probably end up tearing down that antique building back there if we were going to go that deep, because the concrete slab, the rest of the slab for the building would need to be repoured. And as soon as we broke into that, then it's like, we just got to tear this building down and put up a new building. Then the process is going to get longer. So my plan, realistically, dependent on what Vicky's cool with and what she's not cool with, is to hopefully pour a pad opposite where the shopping garage is right now, way down the line. Put a shop there, and then demolish the old shop and take it down piece by piece and save all the old parts, and just leave it like that. Jennifer is asking, how much does the chain of these 3 of these filters cost to set up? Well, the last time I bought a 4-stage RODI unit, which is actually 3 of those chambers plus a couple little hoses and an RO, that was about $159.99 or something like that. So each one of these chambers was $15, so that's $45. With that one that I got, I only got 1 filter per each one. With total cost on these filters, I got 6 of the 1 microns, 2 of the charcoals, and 3 of the DI. So I got quite a few to swap out with, and that total cost was $45 plus 15, 60, $69. So this was a little bit cheaper. This was like a little bit over $100. It's actually module plus a couple little plumbing parts where I want it to go. You know, like the hose hookups and these kinds of things. These are like 99 cents at McClendon's or Home Depot or whatever. So realistically, it was a little bit cheaper, but for me, I'm actually getting more for the buck realistically into what I was doing. Steve Mark Hole just showed up. What's going on here? I'm missing a lot of the chat. I mean, if you guys do like a one or it's hard to keep track of the chat here. As I've heard a lot of people say, hit the super chat, but normally I just scroll back up and try and read them here as we go along. Let's see here. Desiree Hinkle, when getting new fish and quarantine, do you treat the water differently? Do the fish have to have visible signs of parasites, or can you just treat the fish with something as just in case? Well, you could set up a quarantine and have everything pre-treated in there. So maybe if you had like some tea tree oil and some ick treatment and that kind of stuff, maybe a little bit in there. But it would be kind of mean to expose them to any of those treatment chemicals if they didn't need to. The best thing you can do is an observation period. Make sure your temperatures and pH and that kind of stuff is all real close, and then just hold on to them for a week or two. You'll notice if they get sick, if something is wrong with them, just like you would any other fish. If a different fish got sick, you would notice them being sick, and then you'd be able to treat them from there. I mean, if they had dropsy or ick or fin rot or something, or just anything, you'd be able to figure it out pretty readily from that observation in the quarantine time. That would be the best bet, realistically. And the biggest part of the quarantine is being able to get some observation on them and figure out what's going on exactly with them while they're in the quarantine. Some people are asking, Renan is here. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, the aquatic hobbyist was saying the store you maintain has no Rhodey RO. That's right. And you were saying the TDS explains it. Yeah, we have low TDS here, so I don't need the RO unit. and we don't have any salt, and we don't have a ton of extra minerals. The DI portion of the filter is the important part for me, to deionize the cations and the anions out of the water. That's really what I need out from my reef water, and not from my fresh water. My fresh water, it's not a big deal. What I'm going to end up doing for my standard, for our standard freshwater tank that has like cherry shrimp and that kind of stuff, and the killifish and all that, is just a basic one of these and a little charcoal filter, so that when I go ahead and turn the valve on those, then they'll just basically have a pre-filter, and I don't have to throw safe or any of that kind of crap in there and get just the chlorine out, basically. Or use primer and that kind of crap, just to throw a pre-filter on there, and then just write down the dates on my whiteboard when I did water changes, and it's pretty easy to track, because as you guys noticed yesterday, I fill the water that I pull out from my tanks into an ICB container that gets put into my garden beds and stuff, so it's going to grow food and the water for the chickens to drink and all that kind of stuff as we go along here. Plus the pond, at some point in time, once the pond is getting closer to completion, we'll start plumbing these into the actual operational filter of the pond, so I can keep the filter up, out, and back and away from the pond in kind of a what do you call it? Just like an enclosed enclosure. Oh man, such good words. But I can actually keep the filter away from the pond itself and not be down in it and having to pull anything out of it if I need to service anything. We'll basically just have an intake and an outtake down in there, and leave that as is. That aquatic house is here. That shrimp at the back, though. Dwayne is asking, you gonna put holes in the drywall mud? Not for these filters. Actually, these filters are going to get installed into the stands, but I will have to put a hole about this big into the drywall mud fairly soon, because I need to the big outlet. There's going to be a big outlet onto a J pipe that will lead into the ICB container that it holds our overflow water. Plus, we'll be adding another ICB container to it, so we'll be able to hold close to about 700 gallons for the garden and irrigating in the yard, so that I have enough head pressure to run a drip system through all of the raised beds through the system. Which I was planning on doing that this weekend, and we ended up doing ever so important family stuff to get the rest of the raised beds in. So I'll hopefully be doing that sometime this week or this weekend. But I wouldn't it's kind of down on the list right now, so we'll see how that comes along. Aquatic House is asking, don't you find you are required to use a lot of whatever you uses to increase the TDS of water for shrimps in a planted tank? What do you usually dose? It seems hard to maintain. It is very difficult to maintain a specific TDS. The easiest way I know how to do it, honestly, this is the best way I know how to do it, and it's adding a lot of leaves to the sump. Adding a lot of leaves to the sump seems to maintain my TDS pretty darn close most of the time. Basically, I think just because it's adding just enough tannins and all that kind of crap in there to keep things pretty accurate. Like I said, I don't filter into the standard fish tank too much, but that's kind of the one that I'm talking about right now. And then we'll get into more with the delicate shrimps and adding that later on. Just a question, why not just go a full drip system to minimize water changes? I would love to do that. I would probably go drip system at some point in time. If this was a newer building and I could have moved a lot more water and plumbing around the building, I would have done a drip system. But a drip system right now would have ended up leaving dripping water somewhere outside of the building without a for sure drain for it to go down. I will have a for sure drain for it to go down later once the pond is in place, because There will be an overflow built into the ICB containers that will flow down into the pond and then into a drain field off the back of the property. So at some point in time, I am most likely to upgrade to a drip system with the freshwater tanks, probably when I plumb at least the fish and cherry shrimp tanks and that kind of stuff. Those kind of tanks, I'll end up probably plumbing those all together at one point in time. But I still do need to pre-filter my water before it goes into any of the crystals or Taiwans or anything like that. If I'm going to be keeping those, I need to just make sure that nothing weird has gotten into the water. I know a lot of questions. What's your remineralizer going to be for the shrimp tanks? I usually just observe them for a few weeks in the quarantine and treat as needed. Oh, yeah, sorry. So back onto the Dwayne thing. I usually just observe them for a few weeks in quarantine and treat it as needed. So, yeah, I just want to make sure they weren't leaving anything out. Yeah, I just want to make sure to re-hit back on that. Re-hit back on that point to make sure that anybody out there, quarantine just about everything you get. Plants are easy to plants are really easy to get them dipped and make sure that you don't add anything to your tank. That's really not that big of a deal. Hold on a second. Let me look through my email here real quick. I normally email myself most of the lists of things. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. Hold on, let me see here. Trying to think of some of the remineralization. Hold on. There's so many minerals out there. Shirakura is one that I use. I use their shrimp food. I've used their remineralization. That one actually works really well. I use calc stones. If you've used calcium stones before, those work actually pretty well as a sort of a set it and forget it. Actually works pretty well. But remineralizing, I think, is probably you're gonna run into a few things. Obviously, your substrate, how much driftwood you have in there, all that kind of stuff is all gonna come up for sure. What kind of food you're feeding. I feed like a kind of a varied, different diet of food. I feed like 4 different types of food when I'm feeding, so that probably adds a lot of minerals back in there that otherwise wouldn't be there. Oh man, we're over the hour mark, you guys. But Aquatic Hobbyist is asking, plants dipped into peroxide for quarantine. Yep. Give them a 2-minute bath in some peroxide just to make sure you aren't adding anything weird, and then dry them back off with a little bit of tank water in a bucket. But anyhow, we are at the hour-long mark, and I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out. We'll have to get to our big shrimp conversation tomorrow on Tuesday, the 11th of July. We'll have a short video coming out tomorrow highlighting a few of this stuff as best I can. Those of you that are excited about trying to help fund some bigger projects, head over to the Patreon, which I should be able to... oh, yeah, I have to do it from over here. Head over to the Patreon and throw a little something our way. You can always super chat whenever you feel like it. That is the Patreon right there. Just trying to push that out there and see if we can't get something going really well here. I want to get this going every single day. I want to get this stuff going hours and hours. I want to do more produced stuff like people were asking last night. I want to do all that stuff, and that comes down to you guys, because I haven't been able to find a company that wants to pay me to really make videos for them. So fan-funded, mother-approved, no paywalls, none of that stuff. No advertising, no horse shit, none of the horse shit stuff out there that I continually see on the internet of people talking about how cool their cell phone is. Strangely enough, right in the middle of their video and stuff. But love you guys. Hope everyone has a real safe Monday out there. And thanks for coming out for the stream. Have a great one. We'll be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock-ish, specific standard time. So everyone get some sleep out there. Get ready and get up for Tuesday morning. That's coming in hot and fresh. And Carson's daughter will be 6 months old tomorrow. Don't forget to check out the Patreon page, darkstararts.com, and everybody on here that was supporting. I just want to say thanks again. I'm excited. And continue to stay safe. Love y'all. Have a great night, and let me find the